Welcome, fans, to another edition of the Great North Wrestling Podcast here on the Hannibal TV on YouTube. My name is Jack Kilby, Executive Vice President of Great North Wrestling, and we've got a really special podcast today. We're bringing back a man whose first appearance was met with very positive fan response, but this time we're going to do it a little differently. We're going to do it I like to call it a quick hitter sort of edition where we're going to talk about names, stories, and Mr. Stewart, Mr. Illustrious Jonnie Stewart, is going to take the lead in walking us through the many, many personalities and issues that he encountered during his tenure in the wrestling business. And of course, I would be talking about none other than former AWA superstar and many other territories in between, the man known as Illustrious Jonnie Stewart. John, welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Jack. Thanks for having me. Hello to all your viewers. I am pleasantly shocked of all the nice comments. Not that you need to compliment me, but it was really nice just to see people did understand and believe and that I was as honest as I possibly could about the wrestling industry, the boys, the wrestlers themselves, myself, which is key. Because that's one thing I'd like to change with the culture of the old timers is, taking responsibility for their shortcomings or failures and being more, like we talked about in the pre-interview, being more self-aware of their place in wrestling. So I just want to say I was so pleasantly pleased, and other fans actually directly emailed me. It was very nice, and I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, that's always gratifying, and I think from the perspective of an interview, what I enjoyed about it was your candor and your frankness. And my goodness, have you had a very interesting experience in the wrestling business?
Yeah.
One of the stories that you talked about or topics that you addressed in our last interview that got quite a bit of fan interaction was your story about Jimmy Snuka. I saw that you responded to some of those comments. Do you want to address that and perhaps provide some more information?
Yeah, I do. Thank you for bringing that up. It was 1999 or 2000. We had the AWA Wrestling Superstars had a massive show at the Pine Bluff Civic Center. Slaughter and Adnan on top, and kind of a WrestleMania rematch, so to speak. 5,200 people. Vampiro was there. It was a massive show. Snuka, and we just did really well. And 6 months later, ECW went in there and did 1,600. So I'm very proud of stuff like that we accomplished with the AWA Wrestling Superstars. And that night, we were it was 2000 because we were in a 2000 Sebring convertible, and Jimmy Snuka and I drove back to catch a flight in Little Rock the next morning. I think we were all going to San Antonio, and we stopped at his hotel, his Holiday Inn hotel. He got his other bags and stuff, and I think it was the 405. It's the highway that goes from Pine Bluff to Little Rock. It was midnight, and had a long relationship with Snuka. I was in Singapore and Malaysia and Jakarta, Indonesia with him in 1988 with Steve Rickard in Pyramid Home Video. So and we used them a ton of times with the AWA Wrestling Superstars, Bill Gagner's group, and we had a really close relationship. And he proceeded, and it was a little scary because you know a guy, but you don't know if this is him telling you about the infamous night with his girlfriend Nancy Argentina, excuse me. And I got a little nervous because I could see he was leading the conversation to that or into that, and he was going to tell me what his version of the story is. And I don't say that to belittle him or belittle the Argentina family, the DA, the police, or anybody. There's his version, my version, and the truth. We all admit that there's always different versions. And I guess Jack, you were right. I guess I'm not really diminishing anything, a bond between Jimmy and I, but what I said was true last time, which is I don't think the Argentina family will get any kind of solace or comfort in what I was told. which was that he loved her very much, very close to her. They had a friendship, that he was very grateful for, a friendship that they had on the road. Because if you're not tight with somebody and you're traveling every day with them, it's hell on earth. I can attest to that. And that they got him, they had a very these are my words, they had a very contentious, hot-blooded relationship with each other that involved many fights. And he did say that during one of their fights in the hotel room that he did slap her. And I believe him when he said it. He said, "John, I never meant to cause any kind of damage. It was, it was just a reaction by me. We had been physical with each other many times before throughout the year or years. I don't remember what exactly he used. And that, she kind of fell groggy. He never said unconscious, that she was like loopy. And he left her in bed. He went to the Allentown matches. And when he came back, that's when he called the police. So that's what Jimmy Snuka told me at midnight, that he did physically touch her. But, and I do believe him. I don't believe that Jimmy is a crazed, that he was set out to murder Nancy. I don't think anyone believes that, especially anyone that knows him. But I will admit that he did tell me he did slap her. But this was and I'm not diminishing it, and I'm not making light of it, but that this was an aspect of their relationship, unfortunately, being physical with each other when fighting started. And that's the story. And I was alarmed in the car that he was going to get PTSD, and then realized that he's telling me something, believing that this was some haphazard confession, and then come after me to some degree. It was a very, very tense, half hour until kind of we broke the tension, and I realized that it wasn't triggering it, or the story wasn't triggering Jimmy. And that's what he told me, his version of what happened that night, or that afternoon rather.
And he didn't further, after he admitted to slapping her, he didn't mention that she may have inadvertently bumped her head on some furniture, as the I believe one of the theories was.
Right. And there was another theory that she was going to the bathroom and slipping and hitting the guardrail, which sounds that's something that I have done, slipped on the grassy slope of a highway, trying to go, relieve myself. I think that's a more believable story. And knowing what I know about brain damage and brain concussion and injuries like that, is it possible earlier in the day she did have some sort of head trauma? Again, I'm just total speculation. And then the slap that he incurred on her, did even more damage. I think that's a very cohesive line of the way the way that it happened, and the way that he said it happened. So I wish there was probably more. If any of the Argentina family sees this, I feel bad for them, and it's an unfortunate incident, and I wish I could be more of a comfort to them. And I'm sure this story doesn't do it justice.
Well, John, it's the summer of 1990. I understand that your first full week in WCW. Can you walk us through the sequence of events there? And I also read that you got some high praise from one Bill Apter.
Yeah. Well, the Destruction Crew was leased out to WCW for like 2 weeks. It went pretty well. And then Shane Douglas, I don't know if he had a disagreement. He got injured, but he was going to be off for 8 days. And Jim Z. Barnett called me. He's kind of a, don't be mad at us. We'll put you on the road, and we need you. And, look at this, all of the wrestlers in the world. And he was right. When we need somebody, you're the first person we call for, a young baby face, and that's what they used me as one of the dynamic duo. That's a little funny trivia story. Who was the third dynamic dude? And you're looking at him. And so I think that, and this is my crazy week in WCW. Folks, I told Jack, if I had a Bible here, I would swear on it. And I'm going to swear on a Bible that what I'm about to tell you is completely true, good, bad, funny, unbelievable. And so again, I ask the viewers and fans, when you look at these old timers, you've just got to, it's got to be reverence, because this is the craziest life you could lead. It was a prison, it was being a rock star inside of a traveling prison yard, is how I put it. So now Gary Juster gets on the phone. We all familiar with Gary Juster. And imagine, now I like this about my storytelling, because I try and put your viewers like being the parent. I'm 21. You're Carol and Jack Stewart, and Gary Juster calls and tells your 21-year-old son, okay, there's a series of tickets at O'Hare. You're going to fly to Syracuse, and that's where the tour is starting off. And when I get to the airport, what would you like me to do? I'm not 25. I can't rent a car. He's like, oh, the boys will be there. Just find one of the boys. Can you imagine your son is being picked up by the Baltimore Orioles in the travel? I talk about the cigar box, low level unprofessionalism of the wrestling business, not cutting it down, just saying what it was back then. Can you imagine your 21-year-old son is being told by the Baltimore Orioles, yeah, you'll see one of the baseball players in the airport, get a ride with them, whatever. Look, I've been doing it for 3-4 years at the time in the business, so I would have taken a train or a bus to Syracuse, or at least to the town of Syracuse, and got a cab, because I landed in Syracuse. So sure enough, I see Brian Pillman in his black and red Michael Jordan Nike nylon sweat outfit, and I'm like, Brian, I'm traveling with you guys this week. Jonnie Stewart, nice to meet you, and can I get a ride with you to the town? He's like, oh my God, no problem. I'm not driving with anybody. So and I'll never forget, he rented a 1990 Cadillac Sedan DeVille, Dove Gray, with red leather interior. So we start driving, and now Brian had throat problems as a kid. I had throat issues as a kid. Brian was a nose guard in football. I was a nose guard in football. So we were like, peas in a pod right off the bat. And I wasn't a motor mouth. He appreciated that, and we just got along great. And you could tell between us that we were going to get along as traveling mates for at least a week. So now we're driving, folks. I'm not lying. We're driving, and the Steiners go past us, and I'm sure the Steiner road stories of driving are legendary. Boom, they drive past us, and Pillman's like, oh, those fucking Steiners. And about 10 minutes later, on the side of the road is a car like this with a woman and her daughter, like her 19, 20-year-old daughter, and the woman in the car, the wheels like stuck in the mud. And we go past them, and Brian and I go past them, and we're like, Jesus. We get to Syracuse, and Steiner goes, do you see those two? And he was using very foul language. It was Rick. And he's like, yeah, we ran those son of a bitches off the road. They refused to get out of our way, and they were making gestures. And I'm like, oh my God. I mean, I know we're crazy, but vehicular manslaughter, attempted vehicular manslaughter is probably not something that we want to do as the boys. So it's just, so that was like the first minute in the locker room with WCW, which I had been with WCW for house shows around the Chicago area, Hammond, so I wasn't like a complete babe in the woods. Now I go say hi to everybody in the heel locker room, and I go to walk out. I just say hi to a couple of people you don't want to get to, and I hear Butch Reed in the back. Oh, motherfucker's too high and mighty and proud now that he's a big wrestling star. Come over to his old friend Butchie. And all the heels are looking at me like, what? Who is this kid? And what has he done to Butch Reed? And I'm like, oh my God, Butch. What the story is, when they originally hired me in '89, Butch and I were together at a nightclub in Chicago. I don't know how. I think they were it was right after the Pavilion, and I had the Boss Hogs white suit on and pissed off Ric Flair. And I said, Butch, will you please, can I be under your wing? Can you protect me from these guys? It's a really rough business going on the road. I'm going to need a protector. He's like, man, I got you. He loved that I played Memphis State football and I played college football. So he was giving me shit, and he just laughed about it. But when he yelled at me working me. I mean, the locker rooms, and I made many locker rooms, if you can tell, stop in their tracks for my antics or other guys yelling at me. But each Butch was great on the road. So we finish, and we get the Jim Cornette and Stan Lane and Bobby Eaton, and they're calling me Spike Huber in the ring the whole time, and everyone's laughing. Boom, boom, boom. We put them over, me and Johnny Ace, and Brian Pillman and I then go to go out to drink. We're going to all go to this bar, but it looked like an old country club with the pavilion and all the old rocks, and people with very well dressed were going in. It was a restaurant bar. So we were, Pillman and I, for some reason, took a cab because we were probably going to drink and didn't want to drive the rent-a-car. And we pull up. We start walking to the entrance, and I think I'm saying this right, the Samoan SWAT team, right? They were there in 90. These two Samoans are rolling around in front of this restaurant bar as, people from Bushwood, Caddyshack Country Club are walking in with, sport jackets and looking at them. They're punching each other in the face, both bleeding. And I bent down with Pillman. I'm like, do you guys want help? They're like, get the fuck out of here. They beat the shit out of each other for about 3 or 4 minutes. We never saw them again. And I'm with my beer like this, and Johnny Ace was next to me, Zink, Pillman, and Steiners. And I'm not saying a word. I'm like, holy shit, am I in for a week? We just ran off 2 women on the road, and now we got Samoans fighting each other in front of all these uppity Syracuse elite people. It was unbelievable.
And they were tag partners at the time.
Yeah, they were tag partners. There's a famous story that they were like on the road for some reason for like 75 days in a row because WCW loaned them out. There was some famous story. They got a stack of tickets like that. So now the next day we are in Rochester, New York, and Pillman pulls into a gas station, hits the concrete, and scrapes the sedan DeVille all along the sides. Now, I'm a car dealer's son. I look out, he goes, Stu, what are we going to do? I'm like, well, we can't go get a buffer and compound. This ain't coming out. This is body work. It's like, oh, my God, this is going to be 20. And he goes like this, Stu, I lost my gold necklace. Do you everyone remember the Brian Pillman thick gold chain that he had? He loses that the night before. He dents the rent-a-car. I mean, a scratch from the front door all the way to the back. We look like planes and trains and automobiles, when John Candy and Steve Martin are driving the scratch car. We wrestle that night. We go into the Syracuse airport, and Brian's like, they're going to charge me $3,000-$4,000. I got to tell them about it. This is the luck of pro wrestlers, which I've never seen luck like this before in my life. We get up to the rent-a-car agent, and Brian pokes me in a laminated sheet at the rent-a-car counter to turn in our keys, or not to turn on our keys, but to tell them what happened. Brian Pillman looks down, and it says, under New York state law, this is 1990, go check it out. Passengers will not be responsible for damage to their car due to us not being able to, due to some bizarre insurance law that you couldn't sell. It was laminated. I saw it, and I looked at Pillman. I'm like, you are the luckiest son of a bitch in the world. It was unbelievable, and that was the start of the luck. And we fly to Detroit. And we are in Saginaw, and we show up late, and we walk into the locker room. Can't it just be a normal day in the life of Jon Stewart and Russ? No. We walk in the locker room. Gary Juster is screaming at the top of his lungs to a Michigan State doctor doing, for the athletic commission. They are in a screaming match. People are pulling the doctor and Gary Juster apart. I don't know what was the atmosphere or the aura. And when the doctor left, everybody was pissed at Juster because he was going to give everybody painkillers prescriptions. And so you had about 4 or 5 guys chasing this doctor down the hallway, trying to smooth it over. Brother this, brother that, that Gary Juster, and so on and so forth. So I just thought that was like just absolutely incredible. And so then we drive to Detroit, or back to Detroit. We stay at the Hyatt Regency. And what I'm about to tell you is completely true. So I hurt my knee. So Pillman comes to my hotel room. He goes, "Here, Stu, take these. It's 2 Halcyons and a painkiller." Little suburban Johnny Stewart does not take drugs. And very rarely did I ever take anything other than Tylenol with codeine. I pop them, and I'm like, what did I just do? I'm trying to make myself throw up, and my knee was killing me. And I knew I had to finish the week to impress him to maybe get a contract. So, and here's you think wrestlers just sedate someone else? No, they sedate themselves. So now Pillman and Hawk are Tom Zink. Tom Zink is not stopping. Now we get to Cobo Hall. I'm on the second match with Kevin Sullivan. Weigh 7 to fuck up your wrestling career. Now Pillman's in the locker room like this. Tom Zink is in the locker room swaying back and forth. Hawk is trying to shake the cobwebs out. And Animal is like, "What in the fuck did you guys do?" And Animal goes, "What did you do to him?" To me, points to me. Brian's like, "His knee hurts. I just gave him some blah, blah, blah." So now Ole Anderson comes in. He's like, "You're not," he points to me, he goes, "You're not in any shape." I said, "Ole, they gave me painkillers, and I don't know what they gave me." And that Ole seemed to believe me. He was not pissed. He's like, "Well, fuck it. We got to move him and Sullivan's matchup." So I go from second to third. Now I'm still not. Now I go to the 4th match, which I think was right before intermission. And Pillman and Zink go on before us. And all of a sudden, as they're sorry, as they're in the ring, I hear Ole Anderson and a couple of other wrestlers, "My God, what the fuck?" And I guess Tom Zink got Irish whipped by probably Stan Lane, or one of those, a heel tag team. Tom Zink gets Irish whipped, and he's so freaking out of it and so uncoordinated that he does like a ballet pirouette, just totally exposes the business. He hits the thing, he withers down the thing, and Ole Anderson went absolutely ballistic. So now there's fucking tension in the locker room. Flair's on top with somebody, maybe Sting. So now Sullivan and I go out as the match before intermission. And you could tell people like, "What the fuck is this kid?" We know Kevin Sullivan. So I am out of my mind. Kevin backs me in the corner. He hits me. He goes, 1-2. And I just got my hands. He's like, 1-2. And I look at the ref, whoever the ref was, and I just didn't, I would have expected him to say, "Come back, come on, hit me, come back." 1-2 didn't register because I was out of my mind on medication. And he's like, "God damn it." And he throws me between the ropes. I go over the top rope, not knowing that was a DQ. So in 20 seconds of the match before intermission, the ref goes, Kevin looks at, now I'm on the floor. I look up. Kevin looks at whoever that ref would have been. And he goes, "You stupid mother." So now what are you going to do? You got to kill 5 minutes. And you could see this. It was either in the Observer or some dirt sheet. They're like, Kevin Sullivan proceeded to kill this kid over the next 5 minutes. I mean, we were the Tupelo. We were everywhere in the Cobo Arena. He hit me at every chair, hit me through every chair on me, over the chairs. And I knew I fucked up. So I had to really accentuate what I was doing. And we got back. Ole was pissed. I mean, it was just, I had definitely blown my chance at getting a contract. And so this is a little bizarre, but I think you need to share this. So now we get into a car. It's Hawk, me, Tom Zink, and Brian Pillman. I'm not speaking bad of them. This is a cautionary tale. And we go to Greektown in Detroit, and Hawk's wife is leaving him for some guy in Minneapolis, and he's so hurt, and not showing that he's hurt, but you could tell that he's hurt, and we're all sitting around. And I'm a psychology student, so I'm not egging him, but I'm asking him questions, and Zeke is going, "Shut the fuck up." And I said, well, what are you going to eventually do? And Hawk goes, I'm going to pay somebody to pull every one of his teeth out with a pair of pliers. And I'm like, and I'm not throwing. Hawk and I were close. I loved him. I still love him. He's a great guy. But I mean, that's how much pain and how crazy this business can, where you have no rules applied to you. This is what you do to get back at your ex-wife. And I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, you can't possibly be serious. He goes, hell, I'm not. And I remember whipping out his American Express, and he paid for the whole meal. And he goes, you don't. That was another thing I want to speak highly of all the boys. Steiners, Pillman, Johnny Ace, Bobby Eaton. Nobody ever let me go in my pocket once. I had $300 in cash. I think I came back with $280. Not one person. Hotel. I think Pillman, if I remember, paid for the Steiners paid for one of my hotels in Syracuse. Pillman picked up the rest of the pop. I mean, no one ever made me go in my pocket, which was really nice. And I like to commend the boys for that. Now, a cautionary tale. We're in a crack neighborhood in Detroit in a Lincoln Continental. Hawk, me, Zinkin, and Pillman. And I'm not speaking ill. Cautionary tale. And they buy crack, and they're smoking crack through a Pepsi can. And I'm sitting in the back seat, little suburbanite Johnny Stewart going, what, you want to hit? I'm like, no, I don't know, I want to hit. And I'm just saying, like, I'm not even going to say it because I'm going to sound like a preaching, but, it got a little scary and a little concerning for me. We're in the hood. They're smoking crack, and I'm not throwing them under the bus. I'm just saying, God, cautionary folks, just don't go down that road. That's where it leads to. Where you're on top of the world in this arena in town, and you're degrading yourself by being in the hood, buying crack. And so
but I
now,
bet you the gangsters in the hood certainly, when they saw that car, decided that it wouldn't be a good rip-off potential.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you pull up in a brand new the blue Lincoln Continental. Now we all get on flights. Hawk and Zink are back. They don't wake up. We go to Chicago. I go home, right? Do my laundry. I show up at the UIC Pavilion, and I know, I can't. I know people are not going to believe it, but the locker room explodes again. I'm in the locker room. We're all sitting there, and all of a sudden you hear Hawk in the hallway. Where is shit for brains? I'm going to tear his head off. And because they knew we were traveling together the night before, Pillman looks at me and goes, oh, shit, Stu, you better run. I'm like, what? And he bashes open the door. He goes, you out here right now. I'm like, whoa, what did I do? He goes, you dumb motherfucker. You have the keys to our rent-a-car. And we had to get a locksmith to drill the lock to get our bags out of thing. Tell Budget Rent-A-Car to go tow the car from the Hyatt Regency, you stupid motherfucker. You have the keys. He goes, so now it's you and me are going to settle this in the hallway. And I'm like, holy shit. I like this guy. He's going to he's going to kill me. Can you imagine getting a roundhouse from Hawk?
Nope.
So I get up. I go to the door, like, not to be a tough guy, to be like, I got to defuse this. Pillman comes in right after me. He is holding a set of Budget Rent-A-Car keys. He's like, Hawk, I had him in my pocket. I'm so sorry. Don't blame Stu. And Hawk looked at Brian and went, I mean, I'm sure I pissed in my pants at the time. So they're Brian Pillman, totally, absolutely, saved my life. And that was my calm, sedate week of being a professional athlete with World Championship Wrestling. And why Bill Apter. And after that, I was booked with Vern, had a lot of shows in May. I had those 8 days with WCW, and I was wrestling full time for Jerry Lawler, and doing spot shows with, I think, Stan Kowalski in Minneapolis area and Buddy Rogers in Chicago. So Pro Wrestling Illustrated, they said I was the busiest wrestler in May of '90, which is a pretty nice compliment. But yeah, so that was my craziness. And just to end it, I fly back down to Memphis for the Mid-South Coliseum that Monday, because that Step Outside was a Sunday night. And so I fly down Monday morning to the Coliseum. I get in the Coliseum, and Lawler, Dundee, and Eddie Marlin take me into a separate room as I arrive, and goes, and Eddie Marlin goes, and I hate, I want to just still want to bash his face in. He goes, "Are you still working for the AWA? Are you still working for the AWA? I'm on fucking ESPN every Monday around the world." I'm like, "Yes." I'm like, "For the dates that they have." "Well, you're no longer working in Memphis." I'm like, What? And he goes, "Yeah, we don't hire anybody that works for Vern." I didn't know they had heat because of Super Clash. So I look at Bill Dundee, and I had a good relationship with Jerry. Jerry broke me in. Him and Buddy Wayne, my trainer, were very close. And Jerry had his head down. He knew that this was ridiculous. Tom Burton's, well, I'll get to that. So I go to Bill Dundee. I said, "Did I not tell you I was doing TV with AWA? And did I not tell you that I couldn't come this last week because I was on the road with Crockett?" And Bill's like, "No, I don't remember you saying that, mate." I'm like, "Bill, you are so full of shit." I said, "I just flew down here. I just grabbed a rent-a-car. Now you're telling me I'm not on the show." And Eddie Marlin goes, "You'll get your check." And I went up to Eddie Marlin and I said, "I'm going to tell you one thing. I'm not a tough guy, but I hope to fucking God that check from 2 weeks ago, because I missed the 1 week, that check arrives." And he goes, "And it will." And it did. And it did. But I swear to God, I want to come to find out Tom Burton, who was a jobber for AWA, was working with Christopher Anthony. Folks, this is right after the crazy 9 days with WCW. Can you imagine? I mean, my head was mush. I find out that Tom Burton told them, "Oh, Johnny Stewart's still working for Vern. He's lying to you guys, and he's going to keep working for Vern and this and that." And do you know why Tom Burton, I was rooming with in Nashville. Do you know why Tom Burton said that? He was using my American Express card for the hotel room. And when I said, before I went to the airport, I said, "I want the credit card receipt now." He's like, "I'll close it out when I get back on Tuesday to Nashville." I said, "You better." He convinced this black front desk clerk to keep going on and on with the American Express, and he put like 3,000. That's not true. He put about $1,800 of $350 motel week charges. It was like the Continental Motel or whatever. It was orange and blue on my parents' credit card, and so I wouldn't expose him or confront him. He stooged me out and got me fired from Memphis. So that was that was my crazy May in the world of professional wrestling. And you wonder why I walk around with my head spinning.
Well, that's certainly incredible. I couldn't imagine doing that 52 weeks a year. But just to clarify, it seemed that even though you made the mistake in the Sullivan match, it more than got attention and more than got over. What was it exactly that you feel soured your contract? Was it the being messed up for the match, or?
Definitely messed up before the match. Even though Ole totally believed me, and so did Road Warrior Animal. Like, what? I remember vaguely Animal not yelling, but talking to Pillman. He's like, "No, you do that. You don't give what you take to somebody else." And Animal defended me. I was mad at Pillman. I swallowed him again, taking accountability. But I screwed up the finish a little bit in Saginaw with Stan and Bobby, being under the influence with Kevin Sullivan. Then at the UIC Pavilion, which was the last day of that tour, Kevin goes to me again, 75 ways to fuck up your wrestling career. Jack, don't give me the eyes, because I know you're going to give me the eyes after hearing this. Kevin is in the hallway with me, and he goes, I overheard you. You were in Singapore with Mark Lewin. Mark and Kevin were like, I'm like, "Yeah, I went there for Steve Ricard." He's like, "You wrestle for Steve Ricard?" I'm like, "Yeah, great promoter." And and Kevin's like, "Yeah, no, he's the best." And I said, "Yeah, Mark Lewin wanted to train me as a bodybuilder, but I thought he was working me. So I never really had any serious conversation with Mark. And I remember somebody distracted me, and I kayfabe Kevin Sullivan. If that, I mean, folks, It's like you fuck up the match with him. Now he's genuinely impressed that you did something with a best friend of his, and maybe you're redeeming yourself. And I, with my ADD and being shy a little bit and not feeling I'm up to snuff to talk to Kevin Sullivan, who I admired, and kind of like, just like kind of walked away from him. And he was leaning on like some bleachers. And I'm sure he was like, "Fuck, this kid is a flake, So I think it was that. And then never, I called Jim Barnett the following Tuesday, I think, after I got home from Memphis and that chaos. And that was in June. And he's like, well, yes, we've took a look at you for the week. And, if we need to make a decision, we'll certainly call you. And I knew what that meant. Like, word got back. Nice kid, but, maybe not ready for prime time, which I was. But if you're not got your head in the game, you're not. I wasn't ready for prime time, obviously. If I'm going to take, pain pills that I've never taken before, if I'm not going to, I should have just asked Sullivan. Of course, I was under the influence. What do you want me to do? What do you do? He would have probably eventually said, hit me back, which I would have. And then we would have, because I could sell a lot great as a baby face. And just the hawk yelling at me, you're not known for, that wasn't, 2 days later, it wasn't, that kid from Chicago, it wasn't his fault. All you're known as the kid that got screamed at. So, I think it was a hodgepodge, an amalgam of a lot of piddly little shit that, and then Shane Douglas came back. So, they had their other baby face. So I think it was a combination of that. But work, my work other than Sullivan, my work rate was great, I thought.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's a question from the godfather of the Hannibal TV, Hannibal himself. And this is an interesting one. Who was the old timer from the AWA who would walk around naked in the dressing room most? We've heard Dusty like to just wear his cowboy boots when giving finishes for the NWA. And I would imagine if you had to see that, it would be a really fast discussion. You wouldn't argue too much.
Ace, when we were on the road, everybody would speak in Dusty, right? And Tom Zink and Pillman would always go, Eighth, Johnny Eighth, you a son of a gun. I never saw Dusty Rhodes naked. I wrestled Dusty in Tucson for AWA Superstars. And it was, and like Talkie Tonk said, when he drops the elbow, he drops the elbow. I had a cufflink dress shirt on. He bent my cufflinks. He hit me he laid on it so hard. Wow. But it was a great feather in my cap to actually be in a main event with Dusty Rhodes on a huge card that had Mankind and DDP and Billy Graham and Snook and a lot of other top talent. But yeah, no, I never saw anyone that enjoyed being like overly naked in front of me. Billy Travis was certainly proud of his manhood, and yeah, I saw Billy Travis in '86, in '90 a little bit, once too many times naked and stuff, and that didn't bother Ronnie Gossens.
Was that a true story that he, speaking of Billy Travis, sort of go off on a tangent? Was that a true story? He got pinned for child support on air? Oh, that I don't know. I know he got arrested. They might have kayfabed it. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about the other Billy Travis story. No, but I know he did get arrested, and they might have kayfabed it, or even I remember Lawler on camera. Billy Travis has just gotten arrested, and those dirty white boys got him again, or So yes, that might have been the reason. That's tremendous.
Yeah.
One of the and excuse me if I'm jumping out of your order, but we get a lot of questions, and did last time, in terms of your career in Japan, and one of the interesting stories that I think you could probably.
Can you see I'm getting PTSD already? I'm literally I'm getting visibly sorry. Go ahead.
I don't blame you, but you had an actual throwdown with one Corporal Kirshner. Can you expand on that one?
My hand to God, I swear on the Holy Bible, what I'm about to say is the God's honest truth. So I've had a little break in the business. I sent pictures to Victor Keonis. He calls me. We need a replacement in wings. Mike Richards, the Texas Hangman or Disorderly Conduct, he goes, "Are you fucking nuts? They use barbed wire and baseball bats with nails in it and Jonnie Stewart." I'm like, well, okay, I let me just go see what it's like. And Texas Hangman, he's like, you're fucking nuts. So I get there. I got the Brian Pillman, not being a prick. It's Hugh Morris, Eddie, Doug Gilbert, and Corporal Kirshner. Kirshner's drunk out of his mind. And that gave me a little PTSD from other wrestlers who were drunk in my career that, I just didn't like being around drunks. And I get back from a match and there's shaving cream in my pockets of my sweatsuit. What does that accomplish? What is that? I enjoy a good rib, but I'm not going to sell putting shaving cream. I didn't say anything to anyone. Hi, Jonnie Stewart. How are you? If I'd known Doug Gilbert was Tommy Gilbert's son, Tommy Gilbert, I idolized. He was one of the most realistic wrestlers in the business ever. I would have adulated. Oh my God, your father. I was very nice to everybody. Shaving cream in my pocket. Okay. And so now I see him come by with a cage with barbed wire on it. And I'm like, what the hell? And I hear my opponent, I hear silver medal Olympics. And I'm like, I'm Jonnie Stewart. They're putting me in with a Japanese guy who was in the Olympics. And I asked Victor Keonis, I'm like, who is my opponent? He's like, oh, he's an older guy, but he like a Kempateri. He was slated to go to the Olympics, and everyone had said that he should have had a silver medal. I'm like, oh my God. The first night they're putting me in with the shooter. Somebody's got it out for me. They're trying to kill me. This guy, by the way, was the nicest guy in the world, humble, pleasant, the Gino Hernandez body, put me over like $1 million. So I'm complimenting wings. The next night, it's no, Johnny's son. They keep holding me back. I'm second to last going out. I go out. And you can see this on Cage Match where they list some of my matches. For the wings, Japan light heavyweight title. The mayor is in the ring of the Japanese province. The governor. There's 5 bouquets of roses. There's dignitaries. They read I'm not lying to you. I mean, who am I? They read a proclamation. Somebody got this on DVD, but only shows me. They don't show the dignitaries, the proclamation. It was like an Olympic fanfare festivities. I could not believe my eyes. I was very impressed. So I'm complimenting wings. I put the kid over for the championship. So now, here we go again, dummy Jon Stewart. Now I decide, look, you don't ever drink with the boys. Go drink with the boys in the hotel bar. It's Doug Gilbert, Hugh Morris, and Corporal Kirshner. Kirshner's bombed out of his mind. Hugh Morris is drinking. Doug Gilbert is not. And someone is H-bombing me as they're giving me beers from the cooler behind me. I know. Yeah, I know. Any of the boys that are watching this, I know. Never take a beer from somebody else in the business. But you're not thinking. And they get me drunk and they H-bomb me. So I'm starting to talk to Mr. Pogo. And number 70 of fucking up your wrestling career, I like blue sugar on him on accident. I don't know if I sneezed and sugar went on him, and he's like, and he got up disgusted. And Bill DeMont, Doug Gilbert, and Corporal Kirshner were pissed at me. Instead of saying, well, it's our fault, we got this kid loopy. So now they're like, you motherfucker, you're fucking up this tour. This is the way we feed our family. You come over here from Chicago, you're fucking things up for us. You don't even know anything about what we're trying to do here. And you piss off the top star. I'm like, so I leave and I go do a walk around in the middle of the night in Japan, stupid. And I come back and Corporal Kirshner's at the table. And so I'm like, I'm a lightweight, but I'm not a pussy. And so I sit down with them. I'm like, let me get my tongue lashing out of the way, right? So he keeps drinking, motherfucker, and he starts the demon. I don't know if anybody's ever seen Corporal Kirshner. He's talked about it in U-Shoes. He got like demon, red eyes. I mean, scary. And he's like, I'm going to kick the fucking shit out of you, piece of shit, and you're fucking everything up, and blah, blah, blah. He goes, you're leaving now, this tour. I'm like, what's Kirshner's first name? Mike, I think.
Yeah.
Anyways, Mike. I'm like, Mike, I'm not leaving the tour. I'm making good money. I'm sorry. Now I'm sobering up. I'm like, you guys must have did something, or the beer was strong. I'm sorry. I'll apologize. And he goes, you're fucking leaving now. And he goes, if you don't get up and get your luggage and go to the airport, it's 2 a.m, I'm fucking dragging you out in the parking lot. I'm like, I'm not leaving. He goes, well, let's go. I am, swear to God, what I'm going to tell you is the truth. What is he going to do to me? I know he doesn't have a knife. All I'm going to do is take some really heavy punches to my body, which I think I deserve maybe, and I was willing to take. I am not a tough guy, but when I took off my glasses and put him in my fanny pack and got up, Corporal Kirshner went, and I'm like, I guess if I got to get a beating, I'm going to get a beating. And I shocked him, like, this guy's, we're going to fight. And when I turned to the right, he sucker punched me. He knocked me out. I wake up on the ground, and he's above me, bashing my forehead. Blood is everywhere. He is bashing my thing. The guy jumps over. I know you've never heard this, folks, have you?
No, never.
He jumps over the lobby, hotel room, the check-in desk, skinny little Japanese kid, and he's like, stop. And he's pulling out Kirshner. I'm like, Mike. And I can't talk to Corporal Kirshner because he has broken my jaw. So I'm going, okay, I'm leaving. Telling him, okay, you win. I'm going to leave. I defecated on myself. I probably shouldn't have said that, but I defecated on myself because I was knocked out. I go upstairs. I clean myself off, take a shower. I come down with my luggage. He is reading like a hotel, newspaper, leaning against the wall, like nothing. And he's like, all right. He goes, hey, brother, give me a hug. It was, didn't work out, but God bless you. I'm like, you broke, and I'm talking about this. I'm like, you broke my jaw. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, but, things got out of control. Blood still squirting down my face. I am telling you folks the God's honest truth. I go to the taxi, Narita Airport, and the taxi driver looks at me and goes, what? I said, Narita Airport. I didn't realize we were 2 hours away. The cab ride was like $250. All I had was $200. Folks, I'm not lying to you. All I had was $200. I gave it to him, and I said, 1 second, I'll be back. And I took my luggage, and I went into the airport. There was no ATMs that I can remember back then. So I hid in a men's bathroom stall while him and a security guard were looking for me to pay the $50 to pay the fee. I'm hiding, blood coming down. I got a broken jaw. Great day in the wrestling business. So I go up to the, I think it was Continental. And I had on my parents' American Express. And I said, I showing my jaw that I'm injured. I said, oh, Chicago. And she took my American Express and she looked at me. She's like, I'll take care of it. Anyways, so the flight attendants are packing my chin with ice and stuff. They rush me to the hospital when I get to Chicago. And and the nurse that took care of me in the emergency room was a girl that broke up with me senior year. So that was kind of cool. The Chicago police are there, and big Jonnie Stewart, pro athlete, is injured in Japan. And karma does come around, folks. Anyways, my parents get the American Express. The woman charged me $25 to change that's it. To change an international ticket 4-5 days before I should have went back. The kindness of strangers. But that was, So Corporal Kirshner broke my jaw. And that was about the time I think everyone could probably say it's maybe time to do something else or to try and go in a different direction with my life. And that was the coup de grace, And my parents looking at me like, why are you doing this? They had to partially wire my jaw shut. Another true story, the hygienist at my dentist was the girl I dated for like a year when I had when Magnum didn't hire me because my stomach was over my thing. So she thought I was like a bust out wrestler. And now I'm at the dentist. The wrestler beat me up. She's standing there. It was fucking awful. I went through a lot of shit with the business. I should be bitter, but I'm not. But I'm telling you the truth. Again, as crazy as this sounds, how hard the wrestling business was back in the territory days and back in the day, and why I think so many men and women deserve a lot of respect from the fans.
Did you ever see Kirshner again, or did you have it in your mind to give him a receipt? Because it sounds like it was coming.
Well, when you live in Chicago, you have uncles. I think you know what I mean, who were livid. And they wanted to, if you give, send somebody to give them a receipt. I mean, and my dad stopped that. Whether they were serious or not, probably not, but they were that upset, my Italian uncles. And rightly so. I mean, can you see, like, Jack's son, his jaw's wired, like this is ridiculous. Flying back. Victor Chione's never paid me my money. So I got stiffed on. I think it was probably $1,800. So no, I was never able, and I was going to call him up, Kirshner. I was going to call him up one time and be like, you got to pay my medical bills and whatnot. And I'm like, I'm talking to a Neanderthal. What is this? Probably doesn't even remember it, what he did. And at this point, I wanted to forget the bad parts of the wrestling business that I encountered rather than relive it. And I'm not being a pussy. I just didn't. Had I had seen him in person and know that I really shocked him, I didn't terrify him, shocked him, that I was like, let's go. What are you going to do? Punch me? Okay. I mean, then I would have, I probably would have gotten to his face, but he's a tough son of a bitch too. I'm not taking anything away, but he broke my jaw good.
Yeah, and that hard living.
I never told that story either. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I never told that story ever publicly.
No, I'd never heard that. Thank you for doing that. But yeah, what I was saying was that hard living and lifestyle caught up with him, and he's no longer with us. But
yeah, and he went to jail in Japan for harassing somebody. So again, folks, all the young people out there, karma does come around. And Tom Burton, that took my American Express for $1,800, he didn't make it past 45. So I'm just saying, karma's got a weird way of I don't know, taking care of the what's not taken care of, so to speak. So.
Yeah, it's hard for the young people to imagine in the business today those kind of conditions, but my goodness,
Jack? I mean, thank you. I'm not speaking ill of the young guys. I love the young guys. I'm so glad they're making money. But can you imagine the young bucks, putting up with what I just recant? I mean, it's laughable. It's laughable.
No, but not to segue from one negative situation to another, but this is definitely a negative situation, but it does have a positive impact in the end. I'm wondering if you could talk about your situation following the Benoit situation where you did national media with Mark Merrow.
Yeah, I ran for Congress in '99, and the O'Reilly factor let me on. And Bill O'Reilly was so impressed and so on and so forth that when any wrestling related story happened nationally, Fox News, I was on the top of the call list. And they said, "Do you want to talk about the Benoit situation?" I said, "Yes, but I'm not going to follow the Fox News line of, the script. I am going to tell you the truth." And I think her name was Julie, the producer. She's like, "No problem. Bill appreciates you coming on." And I spent 12 minutes with Bill O'Reilly admitting that I took steroids, but saying, look, there is a sickness in the wrestling business. This was also the week Sherry Martel, who was working for us at the time, AWA Superstars. She died. Yoko died. Benoit murdered his wife. Nancy died. There was one other death that I don't remember if it was Louis Piccoli. And I just simply went on national TV in protest for my brethren to say, this is it, folks. Guys, the trains have collided. The sickness is out of control, the wrestling sickness, where it's the travel, and we compensate with drugs, booze, sex, violence. We've all been there. Roid rage is real. I said, I'm not saying that's what happened with Chris Benoit. I said, but besides this murder, there is a sickness that has permeated the wrestling business since the 80s. I am here as a promoter wrestler calling for it to stop. And then I defended Vince McMahon and Turner. I said, look, Vince McMahon drug tests, whether it's valid or not, he drug tests. So, and I've never heard once Vince McMahon tell a wrestler, you must take steroids. Well, Ric Flair, 5 years later, oh, Jon Stewart, a guy that never did anything in the wrestling business. Okay, that's debatable. Is going on and shitting on the wrestling business. Shitting on the wrestling business. I defended the wrestling business. I said we had drug testing. I said Vince McMahon never told anybody to take steroids. I said that the sickness is because of the travel, not that we're all personally screwed up. I deflected that. I just simply said, as a calling to girlfriends and wives and spouses and boyfriends and husbands of touring pro wrestlers, it may be time to turn over around on the couch and say, honey, I think we need to address something. Your drug use, your alcohol use, your anger, whatever it is. Because what travel does and the politics of wrestling does is bring bad character traits to the surface. It doesn't dissipate that. It's a pressure cooker. And that's all I said. And I had Ric Flair just absolutely bashing me. And it's a shame because in Ric Flair's mind, and I'm not getting confrontational with Ric Flair, he's one of the reasons I got into the wrestling business. I wanted to be Ric Flair my whole life. But just because you didn't make $1 million in wrestling doesn't mean your opinion after 30 years in wrestling isn't valid. What, in Ric Flair's mind, the only way you have a valid opinion is if you wrestle for 20 years nonstop and made millions of dollars. I mean, I know I'm worth more money than Ric Flair right now, or close to it. So, I mean, I'm not bragging. I'm just saying, like, so now is my opinion valid, Rick, that I'm not a bust out? So I was again, it's just the fucking old wrestling business, the old school mentality that I never liked coming back, the protectionism of the business, the protectionism. Here's Ric Flair. His 2 kids are dead. He's had 4 marriages. He was living on his son's couch, and he's mad that I'm talking about the sickness that he has got that disease. I mean, it's crazy, and I'm not going to let it go by on this interview. I'm not going to let it go by. Ric Flair was wrong, and I never shit canned the wrestling business, nor did Mark Merrow. Who, Mark, if he ever sees this, I love you to death. I wish we could still talk more often. He's a sweetheart, and I believe Mark Merrow and I, at least one person, we must have saved, or at least gave thought to somebody in the business to say, this is crazy. I got to slow down. I got to take a step back. I believe that Mark and I coming on CNN and Fox 3 or 4 times did some good in the wrestling business. And we don't have a drug problem anymore in the wrestling business to any degree. So it won out. The good trade wins of karma won out in the wrestling business, and I can't be happier than that.
Yeah, I do remember your appearances and thought that like you are in our interviews, you're very forthright and perhaps that's even though you were telling the truth, perhaps that's that culture of working and the marks and all that stuff, perhaps
Right.
that just rubbed some people like Mr. Flair the wrong way.
Yeah, and again, I don't ever blame the promoters. Nobody knocked on my door and said, you're going to be a pro wrestler for the next 25 years. I knew it. I knew there were scumbags in the business. I knew promoters were ruthless. Every business person I know is ruthless and going to pay you as least amount as possible as they can get away with. We think pro wrestlers were in this, the special business. You're not. Car dealers, guys that own accounting firms, construction people on Wall Street, every boss pays as little as possible to their employees that they can get away with. Wrestlers, you're not special.
Wanted to circle back to
Sure.
the AWA, and you've got quite a list of names there to talk about. One guy, okay. Legend, was just interviewed by Hannibal himself about a week and a half ago, and that would be living legend Larry Zbyszko. We had lots of requests to see if you had any reflections on dealing with the guy, because he seems like a hilarious person in real life.
Well, I've told you in our first interviews, Larry's one of the funniest people I've ever met in the wrestling business. We used him for AWA Superstars. We put Ricky Landell from Philadelphia over Larry for our AWA wrestling title in the Speedrome. 3,000 people. There's a black and white picture of the fans holding Ricky Landell up with the title. Larry Zbyszko facilitated that. Didn't say, I'm not putting this kid over. And Larry was he was a mentor of mine. I don't even know if he remembers me, but I'm sure he does. But he was just hysterical with his little comments. He was never mean to me. It was always comments of his perception, what was going on in my wrestling world. And I love Larry, and I'm glad that he got that nice run with WCW.
What about the man who, obviously a legend as well, but doesn't seem to get the level of discussion around his legacy, but definitely has one, the man who was famous for the claw, being the claw master, and that is all that the people need to know, one Baron von Raschke.
Yeah, I tell everybody this. What I just talked about Windy City in Memphis, and now you go fly up to a town in Wisconsin for Vern and Greg, and you're exhausted, your knees killing you, you've got nothing left in the gas tank, and you go on the lineup in the locker room, Jonnie Stewart versus Baron von Raschke. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Walk and talk, blah, 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 hit the claw, boom, hit the music. He's been a little stiff to me lately, not lately, 10, 12 years ago, a little stiff. When I saw him in person, not overly friendly, but that was never really Baron's, way. And, but great guy, a night off. There's a guy that I just prayed at night that I could have a 6-month run, and, because you'd never get hurt. You'd have great matches. And I love the Baron and appreciate that he gave me respite when I had nothing, left in the gas tank.
Next would be the former Billy White Wolf, but one General Adnan L. Casey, that great heel stable manager who managed, Ken Patera and Blackwell, and a great foil for Vern Gagne as well. Yeah,
one of the best heels ever, one of the best heel managers ever. Great worker, which not a lot of people give him credit for. A great worker. He helped book a little bit with me in the new AWA. He backstabbed me a little bit. Talked a little shit, which is wrestlers do that. But I love Adnan. He was like my uncle. I love him. I'm going to tell a quick story because I know we're probably not time. Adnan, myself, Dick the Bruiser Jr. are in a Victorian bed and breakfast in Nebraska when we were attacked by a poltergeist. I swear on the Holy Bible, what I'm telling you is true. I'm in my own room, my door, the old Victorian doorknob. If my door is opening, I hear outside in the landing. I close my door, it opens one more time. I hear this bizarre giggling. We go downstairs. Everyone's quiet at breakfast. We get on the plane in Omaha, and Dick the Bruiser Jr. and Adnan they were white as ghosts. I am not lying to you. They are white as ghosts. They waved me back to the back of the plane. And Adnan goes, Jonnie, tell me, did you pinch my toes last night? I said, Adnan, I didn't. He's like, no, this can't be true. I'm like, Adnan, I didn't go in your room. I said, and my door kept opening. And he looked at Dick the Bruiser Jr. According to them, Dick the Bruiser Jr. was getting his blanket. I have never told the story. His blanket pulled down 3 or 4 times, and Adnan was getting his toes pinched while he was sleeping in the bed. Adnan said he did not sleep a wink. He had the Muslim beads in the back. Folks, I am not lying to you. Poltergeist, wrestlers. He had his Muslim beads in the back of the plane. He was so disturbed, being a Muslim, being religious. He was so physically disturbed on that plane that I'll never forget it. Wait. Now, 2 years later, we are on a tour bus, wrestling together. I'm in the driver's seat, and there's a curtain. I'm listening to Adnan, see if he's going to throw me under the bus. He tells the ghost story. So they weren't doing this to rib me. he told it on his own to other boys on that tour bus that his toes were being pinched, how it still bothers him to this day. True story, ghost story in pro wrestling.
Yeah, definitely heard of poltergeist activity of that nature where you're feeling your body parts being pulled. That's
Unbelievable.
crazy. That's crazy. What about one of my personal favorite tag teams in the AWA? I didn't think their run in WWF was what it could have been. Like them as the Minnesota Wrecking Crew 2 in WCW, the Destruction Crew, Wayne Bloom and Mike Enos. And I know in our first interview, you were one half of the title holders there for a night.
Yeah, for a night. Yeah. A great tag team, great gimmick, great entrance music, great workers, knew what their gimmick was in the ring. And why Vince, well, first of all, why WCW didn't take them right after Vern closed is still a mystery. And why Eric Bischoff didn't reform them as the Destruction Crew, because that wasn't trademarked by anybody. And to take two burly, gruff guys, Mike Enos more than Wayne, and make him the Johnny Stewart Beverly Hills character, that was a screw up on Vince McMahon's part, who didn't make many screw ups with characters. And why Vince didn't just give him some sort of construction. I thought that was just a great gimmick. I thought they were a great tag team. I thought their finishing move as the Beverly Brothers was utterly dangerous. I would have totally said something to them if I would have been in the locker room. Of course, I had that relationship with them where I could have, but that was, I can't believe Wayne and Mike did not realize how dangerous that was to enhancement talent. I love Wayne. I love Mike. We had a very nice time together. They were great guys. Mike Enos is an absolute teddy bear. And I just don't know why they didn't go any further. Totally baffled. I think they should have had a great run in WCW. They didn't.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that that spike maneuver. Some folks theorize that their run in WWF was lessened because of that.
All it takes is one higher up or one road agent to whisper to Vince they're going to hurt somebody. Vince translates that into lawsuit. You're done. You're done. I don't know if that's the case, but that's a shame because Mike and Wayne had a full tank of gas and didn't use it. And I am complimenting them. I don't makes me feel good about the lack of my success when I know they didn't, really hit the heights. It's baffling.
Yeah, it's definitely a case of money left on the table.
But Mike and Wayne, if you happen to ever see this, I love you guys. You guys were awesome. Loved having you in the locker room.
They don't do a lot of interviews, but that's definitely on my list.
They're great guys. Funny as hell, too.
What about the man that you had some issues with in the ring in the AWA, the America's Hero, Sergeant Slaughter?
Oh, yeah. Great guy. When I took a little 2-3 week reprieve and they brought in Tully and then they brought me back again, Greg, and he's like, I'm going to give you a main event match on ESPN with Sergeant Slaughter. I'm like, yeah, sure you are, Greg. And lo and behold, I go by the Mayo Civic Arena. There's me and Slaughter in a double main event with Nikita and Larry Zbyszko. I mean, that's, you're a junior in college. You're on a double main event with Nikita and Zbyszko, me and Slaughter. I went to Walgreens. I'm not bragging. I'm saying how fortunate I was. I go to Walgreens to get athletic tape. I look to the right. You could buy a Sergeant Slaughter little kid's birthday party kit with plates and, G.I. Joe. And I go to the Radisson. Slaughter's doing Diet Coke commercials. I'm like, I'm wrestling this guy tonight. I mean, so very fortunate. The match wasn't that good. It was the first time we ever worked each other. He could hardly hear out of his ear. I blew up. But and he says it himself, my greatest match of my entire career, Sergeant Slaughter and I, 2000, Bismarck, North Dakota, at the Civic Center. We tore the freaking house down. And even went to Dale Gagne and said, does Johnny want to do this? Is he serious about the wrestling business? Because it doesn't seem like he's serious, but that was one hell of a match. And Vince should have saw that. And that was the best match of my career. And it was with Slaughter. So we wrestled each other at the Delaware State Fair. where Brian Christopher was on the main event. There was like 4,800 people. We had just a great match there. I love Sarge. Just love him. I have nothing bad to say about him. Just a great guy, great character, great to be on the road with.
And of course, the man who would become Yokozuna Kokina Maximus, who got his first bit of national exposure on ESPN.
I love Rodney. And we used him for the AWA. So, I saw him weeks before his death. He just had this infectious smile, everyone. You want to talk about calling a sweetheart? Yokozuna was a sweetheart of a man. Just a great smile. But Johnny Valiant and I and Dale Gagne are on the road my first week with Vernon Gregg, and Kokina's brought in. And so Johnny Valiant comes back in the rent-a-car because he's rooming with Kokina. And, Johnny Valiant talks like this, Johnny, and he goes, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I'm like, what? He goes, I had a peek behind the shower curtain to see that Kokina's with that ass and those thighs. He goes, it was the biggest goddamn thing I ever saw, Johnny. And Johnny Valiant was like, he wasn't working us. He was like mystified. He goes, the cream rinse conditioner, he used half a bottle. Dale Gagne's like, you peeked in between the shower curtain, goddamn straight I did. I had to see the ass. Oh my God. Fucking crazy. But Yoko was great. We did a 3-way dance, me, him, and the Patriot, Del Wilkes, who was the trooper at the time. And Yoko splashed me, just, barely touched me. It was great. Great match. There's a guy that I could have went to the WWF in 93. I'm just theorizing and done a loop with him because it's so easy to put him over with the chicken shit heel, the Chicago stall wrestling tactic that I could and did employ on him when I worked him years later with the new AWA. I just love him. I'm sad to see him that he's gone. Just a great guy. He really was.
Gone way too soon.
Way too soon.
A man who I always personally liked his work on the stick. He had that Tony the Tiger gig, and he did well in WCW in later years. Lee Marshall, another guy gone too soon.
Yeah, another guy gone way too soon. And if I could ever tell would-be announcers, because there's got to be somebody in your audience eventually that's going to be on the mic in the world of pro wrestling, right? When I first got there, you could say whatever you want about the dying days of the AWA, Greg and Vern. Number one, we had at the time the only man that ever beat Vince McMahon employed with us, Eric Bischoff. I'd like to talk about him later. You had three would-be WWE champions, Yokozuna, Del Wilkes, the Patriot, and Sergeant Slaughter. You had the WrestleMania main event the year after, Sergeant Slaughter and Adnan. And you had some of the best announcers. What I would like to say after complimenting Vernon Gregg on that and telling people we did have the talent there. You talk about smart and character development all through my time with the AWA. From the first night, every single announcer was on the same page as far as Johnny Stewart. Rich kid, Pacific Palisades, former football player, driving his Porsche, spending his dad's money. We had an angle where we were talking about Rob Lowe stole my girlfriend. My Porsche is in Rob Lowe's driveway. Now, this is Lee Marshall. If you thought we were losers with the AWA and you're sitting there and you're going, wait a minute, one of these wrestlers has got a problem with Rob Lowe. Rob Lowe's dating Johnny Stewart's girlfriend, and Johnny Stewart's Porsche is in his, it's like the National Enquirer coming to life. And everyone stayed on the same page as far as my character through the entire time. And anybody out there that's ever going to be on the mic, so important to be cohesive, to just keep that character going and keep building on the layers of the character. Rich kid, dad's rich, California, Malibu, Pacific Palisades, Lee Marshall telling Nick Bockwinkel on ESPN, oh, Pacific Palisades, that's just up the street from Malibu where you live, Nick. So now there's like this California connection, and there's a little ambiance to that, in my opinion. So I love Lee Marshall. Again, why I never called Lee when he was with WCW to have him put in a word, I don't know, folks. I'm sorry, but Lee was great. Sorely missed.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about Bischoff now.
Oh, well, I have texted Eric a couple of times. We were going to use a picture of his with him and I when I ran for Secretary of State. He was very cordial. And I never told this before. I sold a reality show where we went into independent wrestling organizations like Bar Rescue, Hotel Impossible, and Kitchen Nightmares, and rehabbed the wrestling. Made them have professional outfits with boots. Gave them a new canvas. Talked about promotion, and which I had the tutelage of Dale Gagne and Sam DeCiro from Windy City, two great indie wrestling promoters. And so I was tasked with getting the expert, the John Taffer, right? The Chef Ramsay. And I had Greg Gagne, Eric Bischoff, and Bruce Pritchard, which I hope, God, don't let me leave without talking about Bruce. And we finally landed on not Bruce Pritchard, not Eric Bischoff. But Eric was very cordial. He was very appreciative. He knew I wasn't bullshitting him because I was using the right verbiage, sizzle reel. I've got to put a promotional package together. It's called a pitch deck. And Eric was very helpful with that. We went back and forth on me putting, because I really thought Eric should have been the lead on it. And the show did not get picked up for several reasons. But I think Eric would have done that. So, look, I'm going to be very quick. I don't know what Eric personally thinks of me. I know it must not be well because, he never hired me. He never returned my calls. However, I'm honest. So you got a guy that beat Vince McMahon, good looking guy. When Eric came into the AWA, everyone was excited. Good looking, young, I call him, the John Davidson weatherman of the AWA. For 20 years, everybody bitched. Didn't we get paid like pro athletes? Now you got Eric Bischoff paying the guys like pro athletes. And what do the wrestlers do? ATM Eric, piece of shit. Mark, just giving contracts out. Wait a minute. You just were bitching for 15 years, 20 years. The promoters don't pay us. Now you got Eric Bischoff paying you like you're a second string shortstop for the Atlanta Braves, and you still have a problem with that. Guys that are at the end of their rope, and Eric's paying you like you're a Major League Baseball player. The boys. So I defend Eric. I don't care what he thinks of me. The truth is the truth. And Eric did a lot of great things with this business. And just in case anybody wants to check into reality, whether Eric Bischoff was the progenitor of this or not, Eric Bischoff let the invasion happen in his promotion, WCW. He could have put a squash on it. He could have nixed it. And for 3 seconds, a pro wrestler like me went, wait a minute, is this happening? No, okay, it's a word. Yeah. But goddamn, for 5 seconds, I was looking at the TV going, wait a minute, Eric Bischoff let that happen. So anybody else Eric didn't pay much attention to me when he was running WCW. I think he had time to sit and chit chat as he's walking under the arena, running a national TV show. It's just one thing I don't hate much, but that is one thing that I have always disliked, I will say, about the boys. Anyone that has made disparaging remarks to Eric, calling him ATM Eric, so unfair because he changed the wrestling business.
Most definitely. Before we end with your story regarding Mr. Pritchard, I got to get this one in.
Go ahead.
A very popular athlete who went on to great success in WCW, Scott Norton. Apparently you have a Scott Norton and Harley Race story.
Yeah. I don't not like Scott, but he was a newcomer in the business. When I was with the AWA, he was a loud, blow hard. I don't think any of the boys are saying I'm a liar. I mean, it was very loud and blah, blah, like he was a 10-year veteran. And it was annoying to a lot of guys in the AWA. Scott, I don't not like you, but it is the truth. You had no business talking loudly and like you had been in the business for 10 years. You hadn't. And if you don't believe me, we're somewhere in Iowa and Harley races in the locker room. I'm sitting next to Harley and he's lacing up his boots, and Scott is blah, 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 blah. And Harley looked at me and went, gave me the look like, who is this fucking jabroni? And we're all just trying to get through the night. And we got loudmouth Scott, couldn't work a lick. And that's okay. He's a big guy. He didn't have to do arm drags. I'm glad he got his success in Japan. He seemed like he has calmed down. But when I knew Scott, he had no business to be a loud talker and a mouthy in the locker room. Not to say he ribbed or he was mean to anybody, but just loud. You're not supposed to be loud when you're a newcomer in this business. And Harley gave him the look. And, so you can say, oh, Johnny Stewart. So Harley Race gave me the look about Scott Norton. So I'm sure Scott probably calmed down, but it was definitely, when I would see Scott come in the locker room, it's like, oh, fuck. Come on. Do I got to hear this? The locker room is supposed to be quiet. It's supposed to be guys talking about their problems, their personal life, their future. It's a time to decompress. Think about your match. Think about your next show. It is not the place to come in and yelling and screaming like a goof. And yeah, he was young, so Scott didn't know, but it rubbed me the wrong way, and it certainly rubbed a absolute legend the wrong way. And I'm not lying about that story at all. So, and I'm not throwing Scott under the bus. Scott always rubbed me the wrong way, just how loud he was.
Yeah, and you certainly don't want to go sideways with Mr. Race, even at that.
Yeah, and he was about to. And does it look like I'm lying? He was about to. Harley was pissed. Like, what the fuck? Shut up. So, anyway.
So, you have a story that sounds like a great closer for this, John. I think we're going to do another one of these for sure.
Oh, I got so many guys to cover. Yeah, we have to.
We're just scratching the surface. You're a very I know you've done interviews with Hannibal on another topic and all very popular. So I do appreciate your time, and we'll definitely do a part 3. But let's close this one on Mr. Pritchard.
Yeah. Oh my God. So do you know how many letters I got back from the WWF? Your best of luck in your future endeavors. When you just send a tape with a picture, even though it was a demo tape of me in the AWA, it was a music video. If you're not following up with, hey, if you're not asking, Steve Lombardi or, Andre or somebody to, hey, the kid I know, he's a good kid, sent you a tape. Can you look out for it? These were just taken. The secretary belted out a thing, and I'm sure they never watched any. So I always had a disregard for Bruce in that capacity, but tremendous respect for Bruce Pritchard for putting up with the wrestling business for 30 years and putting up with Vince for 25 years. Bruce, how did you do this? So when we hired him for the TV pilot, you're not going to believe this story. This is Bruce Pritchard. You're fired by Vince. You might not have a job again in wrestling. You're working in a law firm as a paralegal. You have a shot to be the star of a TV show. I get him on the phone, and you could tell he's on Google, and he's looking up a picture of me with my bow on. He goes, Johnny Stewart, yeah, I'm seeing here. He goes, did you do gay porn? Jack, I was like, I don't fucking believe this guy just said this to me. For all intents and purposes, I was a TV producer at that little segment in my life. He just told a TV producer that was going to probably give him $250,000. Do you do gay porn with that boa? And I got triggered. My face got flush on the phone. Right back to Corporal Kirshner, and back to the fucking old wrestling school. And I work my way with, because I do business. Johnny Stewart does business. So when we did the show in Pittsburgh, he was very pissy, very lethargic, sleeping in the car during filming. Yes, the filming is shot. He did a great job, but he was very pissy and made it known that he didn't want to be there, but he did an outstanding job as the star of the show. It's a shame it didn't get picked up. And then we were out to dinner, and I was across the dinner table. I'm like, I waited 30 years to actually get you to go out to dinner with me. I'm like, this pretty rare. He didn't even realize what I was talking about, that I had sent him and JJ Dillon tape after tape after tape, because I'm sure he was besieged with them. But, I like him, and he was been very receptive in the times I have texted him in the past 10, sent him texts, sorry, in the past 10 years. And little advice or something. And my congratulations to him getting hired back. He's been very cordial, but he was a pissy little bitch during the TV filming, and that was on me. So I've got the TV network people looking at me like, this is your guy. So I wasn't that appreciative, but he did it. He knocked it out of the park. But I just can't believe he went back to old school wrestling with that. Do you do homosexual porn? Knowing that I'm a TV producer at that time, it's the voice. It's just, you can't take it out of him. It was just so tacky and tasteless and unbelievable.
When you were asked that question, did he follow it up with, and that's a lifestyle choice, and not that there's anything wrong with that? How did you respond?
No, I just went, oh, you must be on Google. And he's like, yeah, golly, what the hell am I looking at? And I'm like, trying to do business. I have a TV show. I'm not going to say who. I have network people that are waiting for me to close the deal with Bruce, and they really wanted him. And I just went into, so let's talk about why we're on the phone with each other. And then we started to talk business, and I just can't believe that came out of his mouth. I'm not saying Bruce homophobic. Go, folks, I'm not. Just the tackiness and the balls to say that to a TV guy that's going to maybe give you a job when you don't have a job. I don't know. And that's one of the things where you're like, God, I just didn't really belong in the wrestling business to some degree.
Well, sir, why don't you let the fans know where they can find you? I know we're going to get a ton of positive feedback on this, and the fans will want to reach out to you directly.
Yeah, because I want to talk about the Memphis guys, the Dick the Bruiser territory guys, the WCW guys. So if you would let me come back, I think I can
Anytime.
give your viewers. Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, I always give up my personal email because I'm not on social media. It's John, Jon, Allen, ALAN, STEWART. I'm an old guy, so it's at AOL.com. I still have AOL. If you want to shoot me, I'm very, very, very good about answering emails. And if you have anything to tell me or ask me or comments, fire away. I'm really good about responding to emails and taking criticism or whatever. But thank you for having me on again. I really look forward to coming back and telling some more great stories and my thoughts on wrestling, where it was and where it is now. And Jack, thank you to you. Thank you to Hannibal, your viewers and listeners. It's just been great, and I've enjoyed my time. And thank you for having me.
Well, thank you very much. It certainly didn't disappoint. I really enjoy our discussions, and I'll be in touch for a part 3. But until then, fans, that's it for this edition of the Great North Wrestling Podcast. If you haven't already, subscribe to the Hannibal TV. If you like this video, please hit the like and make sure you hit notifications so you don't miss anything coming from the Hannibal TV. Until next time, Jack Kilby, take care.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos,